Hello and welcome to ERPWebTutor.com. The objective of this presentation is mainly to talk about the Fusion applications as a product and also highlight some of its unique features that has changed the way we think of an ERP solution. It has taken almost 5 years for Oracle to build the first edition of this product that was launched about 3 to 4 years ago. And still a continuous effort is being put on to make it more effective and customer friendly. With Fusion, Oracle has taken the unusual route to build it actually from scratch, which no other competitor has dared to do in the recent times. By introducing the coexistence model, Oracle has helped its customers to avoid the complete re-implementation of their existing HRMS system. The HCM Extract feature has helped in pulling the data out of Fusion applications for sending over to the third-party vendors that are responsible for usually managing payroll, benefits, and others. In the following slides, we will try to cover briefly about the coexistence concepts. So let's go and see what we have in this presentation. Now, as we said, that this is mainly to understand, if you're planning to implement Fusion, especially if you're a consultant, and also if you're a customer, what you really need to know when you are trying to implement the Fusion HCM or even planning to implement Fusion HCM. Now, before we actually talk about the features of the Fusion applications and the way it helps the existing HCM customers, let's try to understand what Fusion applications is and what are some of the winning features it has come up with. The Fusion applications is the latest suite of applications from Oracle that eventually replace eBusiness Suite. It is a fusion, that's why it says, it gets its name from there. It is a fusion of the best features from eBusiness Suite, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, and Siebel. Now, among the four, eBusiness Suite and PeopleSoft are probably the ones that the ideas from those two has been incorporated the most. So it is a cloud-based software solution for modern needs. So it is mostly usually hosted by Oracle, or as of now, it's mostly hosted by Oracle, and the customers just need to buy their licenses. We have covered some more concepts about the different deployment options in some of the other videos. You can take a look about the different deployment options that is offered for Fusion applications. The Fusion applications uses the latest technology to provide a high quality product. It has used the SOA, the BPL, and ADF, the SOA and BPL mainly for the process and ADF for building the screens. And now you can use your favorite browser. No more dependency on the Java applet running in the background to load the forms. Now, that has been the case and was often a pain point for a lot of Oracle users in the past, where they used to have Oracle EBS, and in Oracle EBS, most of the forms, most of the screens were actually built on Oracle Forms. Now, in order to open those forms on the web, they had to have a Java applet running in the background, which would then render those forms on the web. Now, and that often caused a problem, especially with compatibility with the Java versions, and there were a lot of issues, and there were always some complaints from the customers about that. Now, with the Fusion having been purely on a browser, that problem has been eliminated. Also, Fusion is highly mobile. You can use your tablet, smartphones to access the system and perform a lot of manager tasks. It also comes with the pre-built intelligent analytics. So you will see all kinds of dashboard where you can do all kinds of charts and graphs that will give a pictorial representation of some of the things that often the managers and HR and other areas would really appreciate. Now, this is a structure of the different modules that are available in Fusion. Now, Fusion comes in different modules. It has the financial management, the HCM, the supply chain. It also has the project portfolio, Fusion procurement, Fusion customer relationship management, the CRM. And you can see all the different modules within that particular application. So in financials, it has the GL, AP, AR, cash management, payments and collections. And all of these have this wonderful new feature for the KPIs, dashboards, and extensibility. Same thing with the HCM. You have the global human resource, the workforce lifecycle management. It has the benefits, the advanced benefits module, the compensation management, usually used for, it's a replacement for the comp workbench that used to be there in EBS. The talent review, performance and goal management, which is actually the replacement for Oracle Performance Management in EBS. And now they have the global payroll, network at work, which is a wonderful social networking feature that has been integrated in Fusion, and also the KPIs dashboards. Similarly, you can look at this diagram and see all the other modules. I don't want to go through each and every module in each of the areas. The recent additions to the HCM has been the time and labor, which was not introduced in the early editions. It has been recently introduced by Oracle. I believe it's from version 7 or 8. It has been introduced on the time and labor module. Now, the next, we need to talk about the Fusion coexistence options. Now, we have talked a lot about how this allows the customer to integrate their existing HR system with a hosted Oracle Fusion HCM implementation. And as you can see in the diagram where we have the Fusion Cloud HCM, so our focus will be on the HCM side because that's the idea for this particular course. But again, this will give an idea even for a non-HCM person, at least some of the key features that Fusion is offering in this area. Now, in the center, you have the Fusion Cloud HCM, and then the different coexistence options. The first one is the HR to HR, which is a almost real-time synchronization solution that was offered by Oracle. And we will talk about each of these options in the coming slides. The next is the FBL, or the File-Based Loader option. That will allow a initial bulk load feature to convert most of your legacy data into the Fusion HCM. It is also the most popular and the most widely used coexistence option right now. The next one is the Spreadsheet Loader, which is a simplified solution to load legacy data, as well as data load at a certain interval, even post go live. A lot of customers use it for, loading the daily transactions, even employee records, using the Spreadsheet Loader. The last thing, which is the HCM Extracts, so that is a representation of the outbound interface. So you can extract data from the Fusion Cloud HCM application. So now we are going to first talk about the HR to HR option, which is basically it's a predefined extract mechanism that was built to take advantage of the existing knowledge of eBusiness Suite, the Oracle eBusiness Suite, and PeopleSoft database objects. The extract should generate a snapshot of the data that exists in the system of record and then move it to an SFTP server. So these are the different steps that happens from an HR to HR process. So once it is on the FTP server, the Fusion application is notified via a web service call that such a file is ready for processing. Fusion then retrieves the file from the SFTP server, unzips it, and initiates the processing. In the first stage of the processing, it is passed through an ODI layer, which is the Oracle Data Integrator layer, where the data is compared against the existing Fusion data and determines the specific actions that need to be taken on particular data objects in order to synchronize both systems. Now, that part is very important because by doing the comparison, Fusion will know whether these changes might be creates, updates, deletes, or date effective changes. So that part is very important. So if the data exists, especially since HCM is a date tracked, everything is date tracked, uh, it is very important that those transactions has to be done very carefully. And this is intended for customers who want to take advantage of new functionality provided in the Fusion Talent, compensation, core HR offerings, but already have an Oracle HCM or PeopleSoft on-premise installation. So this is mainly targeted towards the Oracle EBS and PeopleSoft customers. Now, unfortunately, this has posed a lot of challenges because of its inability to handle certain things like the DFFs and other components. And also the limitation is it only works with EBS and PeopleSoft. So if a customer doesn't have one of the two, this option is not a realistic option for them. So as a result, most customers are have shied away from this HR to HR model. Even Oracle right now is probably working on improving this because of the challenges it has faced with the early customers. And the most preferred way right now is the FBL or the file-based loader, which we will talk about next. Now, FBL or file-based loader was designed to make the handle the same amount of objects as the HR to HR option. So you can pretty much handle the same number of objects as the HR to HR option would do, but where there is not a predefined source system of record. So you don't have to have an EBS or a PeopleSoft installation. It will work with any HCM software that the customer might have. Now, it can be used for most legacy systems and not restricted to Oracle EBS and PeopleSoft. That's what I just said. It is intended to be used for initial data load and bulk loads of data, including history. So using this, we can load even the historical data, which is very important when you are loading employees, their assignments, where you might have to load the historical data for a particular customer. Now the extracts needs to be built in the format required by Fusion. So that part is very critical. So you can derive the extracts from your legacy system or existing. I mean, I don't want to call it legacy because you might still keep that system running. So you have to make sure that somebody needs to retrieve the data extract in a specific format that Fusion needs in order to load the data into the Fusion applications tables. Now, unlike the HR to HR, FBL takes the data from a zip files and loads it directly into the data loading stage tables rather than going through an ODI layer. So in the previous slide, we talked about the approach the HR to HR takes where it goes to an ODI layer. Now here, it gets the file extract in the specific data format. And once it gets the file, it loads it into some staging tables. By bypassing the ODI layer, it is possible to extend the number of attributes that are supported within each object, especially the descriptive flex field, which was not available in the HR to HR option. It supports data validation and correction, and also the file loader supports both data creation and updates, including terminated employee transactions, and it also supports the creation of full history records. Now, what I would like to call this is a perfect hybrid of the SQL loader concept that exists. So it uses that similar concepts of SQL loader and uses that to load into a staging table, and then instead of the developer having to write a script to load or an API to load the data into the base tables, that already exists in Fusion, which will take care of loading the data from the staging table into the base tables. So we will talk a little bit more on the FBL, and we will have a detailed actually a demo of the FBL and what are the different components from the application side, what you need to do and how the FBL actually works. And we will show you an example of an FBL where we will actually use the FBL process to load some data into the Fusion applications. Now this slide actually talks about the different components that you can load using the FBL. So you can load all the work structures like locations, organization, business unit, You can load HR orgs as departments. So in EBS, you did not have the concept of departments. Everything was an org. Now here you can load those HR organizations as departments. You can load job, family, job, position, grade. That's from the work structure. From the talent side, you can load the competencies, qualifications, rating scales and levels, schools and colleges. On the compensation side, you can load salary bases, salary components, element entries. Keep in mind, this is talking about the element entries. The elements cannot be loaded using the FPL because the element structure, the way the elements are handled in Fusion, especially the links, it is different than from EBS, and that is the reason it cannot handle the loading of the elements and links using the file-based loader. So that is one activity that the functional consultant has to do manually. From the employment side, especially the employee data, you can load the person name, national identifier, address, person legislative information, phone, email, documentation, person type usages. So that's the person types. And then on the assignment, you can create assignment work measure. You can load supervisor, work term, work relationship, which is basically the assignment itself. You can load the person profile and person profile items. Oracle is constantly coming up with new areas or new objects that they are adding so that the FPL load, the file-based loader, becomes more efficient and can be used for loading more components. So these are basically the supported objects. Now this is basically a flow diagram or the flow chart of how the file-based loader works. So you can see on the left-hand side, you have the multiple source systems, which we mentioned that it can be different legacy systems apart from EBS or PeopleSoft. So from the legacy system, it gets the data, the CSV format, and now actually it is also accepting the .dat format, and the files are usually pipe separated, and you get the data conversion and initials and ongoing. So you can also do ongoing load using this FPL. Now, once you get that file, you can load the data into the interface tables. It does a validation and correction of the errors, which you can see once you run the process. It will give you all the records that failed and why it failed. And then finally, you have to run another process to load the data into the Fusion base tables. So this is basically a high-level diagram of the integration process steps. So number one, what happens is you have to configure the load batch data process. So there are some configurations that has to be done in order for the FPL to work in the application, which will be covered in a separate video where we will discuss, we'll focus on the FPL, we will talk about the configurations, and we will demo the actual FPL process by loading some sample files. But here we are just giving you a high-level overview, a process from the process perspective, how this works. Now, you configure the load batch data process, then you define the Oracle Fusion business objects and then generate the mapping file of cross-reference information. This is important, especially for some of the IDs that gets generated in Fusion. So in that case, you'll have to generate the cross-reference files and the mapping files. With that mapping file, once that mapping file is created, that is loaded into the SFTP server. Now what that mapping file will do, the mapping file will then, so that the left-hand side is happening on the Oracle Fusion side, okay? So this mapping file is sitting on the SFTP server. Now from any source on the right-hand side, which is your third-party system, you import those cross-reference information to the source environment. And then you map the source data to the reference data. So the source data and the reference data, the source data is sitting in the legacy system, and then you map that to the reference data system. So once you do that, so usually this is a developer activity where they will extract or write queries to generate the data in the format that Fusion needs. And then you can extract the data, the source data, and then once the source data is extracted, you can place that extracted source data on the SFTP server. So again, this SFTP server has the mapping file and also has the source data. So from that, the source data then goes into there's a process for importing the source data into the stage table. So you need to submit a process that will load that source data into some staging tables. Now keep in mind, just like the way the source data format is important, the data file naming convention is also equally important. So Oracle, the Fusion needs that those requirements in terms of the extract and the file is very particular, and in order for this thing to work, you have to be very careful and create the files correctly. You have to name the files correctly because everything follows a specific format. So once the source data gets into Fusion, so you can see that the source data, once it goes on the left hand side, it's sitting on the Fusion side. So that import of the source data into the stage table will load the data into the staging tables, where you can actually see some of the validations that has taken place. Now also after that, you can load data from the stage tables to the application tables. So you can see once they are successful, it hits the Oracle Fusion application tables, and it also generates a batch for the error log. So you can go into that error log and go through each and every record that failed, and you can fix those errors directly on the Fusion side, rerun the import process into the Fusion application tables, and then you can reload those error records from that staging table into the Oracle base tables. So this is the high level process diagram of how the FPL works. Okay. Now this will talk about the different sequence, and this is again very important. You have to keep in mind why the sequence is important, because there are dependencies. Let's say I'm trying to create a location, and just we will take 1, 2, and 3. Okay, action, reasons, and location. Now when I'm trying to create a location in Fusion, for each entry or for each creation of a location, I can give an action and an action reasons. Okay, now that is the reason why those actions and action reasons has to be created or loaded into the Fusion applications before I can create locations. Because in my location file, I will have a field called an action reason. That means why am I creating this location? Now again, these particular topics about actions and action reasons, I mean why and why and for what purpose they are used, how they are configured, that has been covered in a separate lesson on actions and action reasons. But just to give you an idea that when you are creating a location, it allows you to track for any entry and update by giving a reason. So this is purely for reporting purpose why you have to enter those action reasons. So that is why if you think in the configuration perspective, you have to have the reasons defined before you can create a location, because in the location you are going to need those reasons. So this is the sequence that you have to follow. So you can go through that: action, reasons, locations, and then business unit, where the business unit you can have a location. Then the grade, job, family, and then job, because a job will belong to a job family, optional though. But again, job family has to be defined first so that it can be used in the job. Again, salary basis, establishment, rating model, content item relationship, person, documentation, department, position. Again, if you see here, position can be created only after the job and the department has been created, because a position is linked to a department and a job. Then I can create the work relationship, I can create the salary, element entry, and the person profile. So this is basically the sequence in which the FPL data loading takes place. Now, some of the prerequisites. So some of the required tasks in order to execute the coexistence include: you need to configure the Oracle eBusiness Suite HRMS systems for coexistence. Especially, those are some of the responsibilities that gets added on the EBS side, where you can perform certain tasks. Identifying the business groups to enable for HCM coexistence solution, because there is no concept of business groups in Fusion. So we have to identify what are the business groups from where information is being sent over. And then depending on that, you have to design a solution in Fusion and use the FPL accordingly. Importing Oracle Fusion cross-reference data for setup mapping, which we already covered that. Again, some of these concepts will be even more clearer when we see the FPL in action. Mapping EBS entities to Oracle Fusion using the Web ADI spreadsheets. Extracting the EBS data for importing to Oracle Fusion as a zip file. This is the zip file option is for the HR to HR. You can generate the .dat files for the FPL process. Placing the extracted zip file in Oracle Fusion FTP inbound server and invoking Oracle Fusion web service. Importing the compensation changes, updating the EBS system with the compensation changes. So once you move the compensation changes into Fusion, especially if let's say you're doing a compensation management and a compensation increase has been given in Fusion, that has to be sent back again to your EBS, especially if it's a salary increase and you are not using Oracle Fusion Core HR but compensation. So the salary increase has to go back into the HR system. So these are some of the configurations, the prerequisites, tasks that you would normally do to have the coexistence to work properly. Now this is the last solution for the inbound solution. There's another option for the HCM Extract, which will come later, but the Spreadsheet Loader solution, which is basically a simplified solution for loading a lot of loading data in bulk. Now the HCM Spreadsheet Data Loader enables you to upload business objects to Oracle Fusion HCM from a spreadsheet. Example, the person data, assignment data, jobs, grades, talent profiles, etc. So just to give you a brief idea about the Spreadsheet Data Loader, and this is something that I have done at multiple clients, that and they actually like it very much, especially on a data maintenance perspective. Again, this is a simplified approach. So the steps that you need to do, you need to generate a spreadsheet for a selected HCM business objects, enter the data in the spreadsheet and click on upload. This action imports the data to a named batch in the load batch data stage tables. Now there are certain additional things that you need to do. This is very similar. So like the previous one was an enhanced version of the SQL loader. This one is a improved version for the Web ADI. So what it will do, it is like an update ADI or a create a web up ADI. So what you can do is, let's say you want to create jobs. In order to use the spreadsheet loader option, you have to have an add-in for your Excel, which you can download from the Fusion applications. And again, all those things will be covered in details in a separate video where we will talk about the spreadsheet loader solution, and we will again show you a live demo of a spreadsheet loader option where we will actually create some data into Fusion applications using the spreadsheet loader. So the steps, so you will basically, so once you have that add-in installed and add it to your Excel, you'd have to do some macro settings as well on your Excel side. And once that is in place, you can go to you can download a spreadsheet and then you can enter. So it downloads the spreadsheet with all the fields that you need to enter. You enter the data in that spreadsheet and then click on upload. Also, you will have to provide a batch number, which will be used when actually importing the data into the from the staging tables into the base tables. So it will, when you do an upload, this action will import the data into the named batch. The batch name is there on the Excel spreadsheet that you are uploading. So that loads the data into the batch data stage tables. The load batch data process, which loads data from the stage tables to the Oracle Fusion application tables, runs automatically when valid data rows are imported to the stage tables. So once everything is valid, the load batch data process already automatically runs. But it also supports updates and corrections. For correction, you can use the same effective start date as the record creation date. And for update, you can use a date which is after the record creation date. So basically, if you want to do an update of bulk update, you can use this, and it handles the date effective actions like an update or a correction. And you can also use this for creating new data. Like I said, you can just download the spreadsheet for creating jobs, and then you can upload those jobs in the system. Okay. Now let's go to the next slide. This is basically the spreadsheet loader data process flow. So initiate HCM spreadsheet load, what that will do is basically you go into the application, you choose whether to download the information or you want to create, depending on what kind of action you're doing, whether it's an update or a creation. Then you will initiate that spreadsheet data load process. So initiate can be create or an update. That will generate the spreadsheet, and that will also once you upload those data once you upload that Excel sheet into the application, so that's the business object spreadsheet that imports the load batch data into the staging tables. Again, if it fails, you will have to find out what failed, and then you might have to re-import the data. Okay, and then the actual load batch data process runs, where it will load the data into the Oracle Fusion application tables. If there are any errors, it will sit on you can see it from the batch log file, and you can, again, similar to the FPL, you can also fix and rerun the process to load that information into the Fusion applications. But again, this whole process will become, like I said, I keep repeating, we will have a detailed tutorial on the spreadsheet loader as well. The next is the HCM extracts. The HCM extracts can be used for archiving, for reporting, and as an outbound interfacing tool. This document includes information on how to use HCM Extract tool, this diagram, to create the outbound interfacing or reporting. The data exchange work area allows you to perform tasks related to inbound and outbound interfaces, which allows exchange of data between HR systems. Now, again, we will not talk in details about the HCM Extract because, again, we will have a separate session on that. But basic idea for the HCM Extract is it allows you to extract data for reporting from the HCM, and this is very useful, especially when we have a payroll interface that you have to send the data to your payroll provider. In those kind of situations, this is very useful. Also, if you have benefits provider, it is useful. And also, if you get an inbound file for benefits, you can often use it to load that data back into the HCM, the Fusion HCM. So that is the purpose of the HCM Extract. Now we have covered all the different components or the different areas for the coexistence model. And if you have any questions on this particular topic, you can always reach out to us via email at admin@erpwebtutor.com. Or you can, if you have access to the course, you can always post your questions through our forums for the course, and we will definitely get back to you. And like I said, we will cover those three areas. Since the HR to HR is not really possible to show, and it is not a very popular tool at the moment, we will have detailed sessions on the FPL, which is the file-based loader. We will have demo on the spreadsheet loader and HCM extracts. Those will be covered as well. So that will mark the end of this training. Again, for more, useful videos on Fusion applications, do visit us at www.erpwebtutor.com. Thanks for watching.